Welcome to the Fantasy Football Clown Show. I'm your host, Ed, along with Dan, with Justin, and Brad. We're previewing Clownheads 2, and this is year number 2. And it's a league that Justin and I play in against each other. And Brad's going to break it down now, just as an aside. He's actually in 2 drafts as we speak. So he's going to be drafting an auction draft, a redraft, a draft that he's drafting right now in a home league, and then he's going to break down Division 2 as our Clownheads 2 as well, because he doesn't play in this league and he just kind of watches it from afar. So if he needs to make a pick, help him get Pat Mahomes. With I think he's probably in round. What are you in round, like 7 or what? We're round.
I'm beyond that. We're in round 14.
Oh, so this is when you actually can make your dough. So without further ado, Brad, we'll let you get started with Clownheads 2.
All right, let's jump right in here. We'll start with the Big Behemoth. Their team, they have Cousins and Pickett as their QBs, which is mediocre as a duo, but they have nothing else behind it, so it's really not great. They have Eckler and Connor as their running back room, which is old and kind of fallen off now, so they'll probably have to make some moves here. They got JJ, Cup, D-Hop, Cooper, and Flowers for the receivers, which is a pretty good receiving core, actually. And then Ertz and Tanyan as their tight ends, which is subpar. Mahomes has Herbert and Carr to form a solid QB duo, but nothing else behind that. She's got Najee, Jacobs, Pierce for her running backs, which is pretty good for a trio. And then Diggs, Pittman, Kirk, and Thielen as her wide receiver room, which is okay. It'll get the job done. And then Dallas Goedert and Njoku to make up her tight end room, which is a solid duo. Mr. Miyagi is trotting out Kyler and Tannehill for his only 2 QBs, which right now doesn't sound too good. He's got Ramondre, Dobbins, Gibson for his running back room, which is real solid. He's got Adams, Amon-Ra, DK, and Mike Williams to form a great wide receiving core, and Andrews and Kittle as his tight ends. So that's probably the best duo in this league. SM Ritt is up next, and he's got Lamar and Russ as his QBs, which is okay, but nothing else behind it as well. They got Derrick Henry and Mostert as their running back room, which seems real old. Not sure kind of what direction they're heading with this team, because they got Debo, Judy, Elijah Moore, and OBJ as the receivers. And then Dalton Kincaid and Everett as their tight ends. Dirty Dave Storms has Jordan Love, Mac Jones, and Stroud as their QBs, which is young and solid. They got Brees, Akers, Pacheco to form the running back room, which is also solid. They have Davis, Bateman, Myers, and Collins as the receiving core, which isn't great. And then Waller and Higbee as their tight end room, which is pretty solid. Higbee's definitely an underrated tight end. Next is Heifer. They got Hurts, Dak for their QBs, but nothing else. Chubb and Sanders for their running backs. Nothing else behind that. They'll probably have some issues there. Got Jamar Chase, A.J. Brown, Jalen Waddle, and Pickens as their wide receiving core, which is, probably the best in this league. And then they got Laporta and McBride as their tight end room, which is real young with potential. America's team is up next with Trevor and Rodgers as their QBs, which is okay. They got Pollard, JT, AJ Dillon, and P. Ryan, which is a pretty solid running back room, has plenty of depth. Got Tyreek, Devonta, Olave to form a real young wide receiver core. It's pretty stout. And then Hurst and Knox for their tight end room, which isn't the best. It's definitely their weak point. JDM is up next. He's got a great QB room with Burrow, Tua, and Bryce. And then he's got Walker and Brian Robinson as his running backs. So that's probably definitely his weak spot besides tight end, where he's trotting out Gesicki and Granson. But his wide receiver core is real good with Lamb, Higgins, DJ Moore, Christian Watson. It's real young and nice. Next is Jack Powers. He's got Josh Allen, Stafford, and Geno for his QB room, which is one of the only teams I've named so far with more than 2 QBs. And then he's got Aaron Jones, Madison, and Kamara for his running back room, which is okay. They're getting up there in age. And then Allen, Evans, Lockett, Sutton, and Cooks for a solid but old wide receiving core. And then Kelsey and Hawkinson as their tight ends. So actually, this might be the best tight end duo in the league. Next is Fantasy Clown. He's got some mediocre QBs with Jimmy G, Danny Dimes, Purdy, and Baker. He's got plenty of them, but none of them will probably be what he wants them to be. He's got Saquon, Bijan, Javante, and Monty as his running backs, which is stout. I mean, probably the best in this league. And then with Swift on the bench. And then he's got Garrett Wilson, Traylon Burks as his receivers. But, I mean, that's really it. I mean, he'll have some work to do there. And then Evan Ingram and Mayer as his tight ends, which is solid, young, a lot of potential. And then we'll go to the top 2 teams, I think, in this league, with the first one being Vertanen. I mean, as you can see, any team that starts off with Mahomes is probably going to have a good shot to get here. But, I mean, he's got Mahomes, Fields, and Watson as his QBs. So, I mean, he's got a trio of top 10 QBs here. His running backs are just as good with CMC, Mixon, and Gibbs. And then Khalil Herbert behind him. He's got depth there and everything. His wide receiver room is okay. He's got Godwin, Hollywood Brown, Ridley, Mooney, which it doesn't sound good on paper, but I think all of those guys could be sneaky this year. And then his tight ends are Frymouth and Dulcich, which, I mean, if you don't have Kelsey and Hawk, I mean, those two are nice and young. I mean, they'll get the job done if you're streaming tight ends almost. But yeah, I mean, this is a good squad. It's got depth everywhere. All of its picks. Yeah, I think it'll definitely be right up there in the league. And then my next team is Head Smackers. And their team doesn't look as pretty, but I think these guys will perform a little bit better than they're projected. They've got Goff, Anthony Richardson, and Ritter as their QBs, which doesn't sound that good, but I think it'll get the job done for him. He's got Etienne, Rashad White, and James Cook as his running back room, which is solid. His receivers are London, McLaurin, Deontay Johnson, Ayuk, Addison. I mean, they're young. I mean, they can definitely perform, everybody on this roster. And then his tight ends are Pitts, Irv Smith, and Fant, which can also play with anybody else in this league pretty much. They have plenty of depth. They've got guys like Israel Abanikanda on the bench, Gainwell, Quinn Johnston that I didn't even mention. I mean, they have, and JMO. They just have depth for days. They can handle injuries, and I think they'll be right in it.
Yeah, I tend to agree, Brad. I think they're good. I do think that Jack Powers winning last year still has a pretty good team. So I'll be sort of shocked if he's not in at the end. I kind of I'm impressed by your breakdown on Head Smackers, because as I looked at him, I was like, I don't think this team's going to win, but I might be able to control that. So Head Smackers, if you're listening to this, probably are going to have to pay me an awful lot to get a running back, because I my breakdown on this is that you're a running back away, and so that won't be your first round pick that's coming my way, because that'll put you over the top, and I'm not really interested in the 112. So it'll have to be the 2025 coming my way to get one of those running backs. So no, I'm kind of kidding, but no, I think that's what would take that team over the top is a running back, and I kind of think that I own the running back, so I'd be the roadmap to a championship. But yeah, I look at it and I see Jack Powers, so I'm interested. Dan, what are the analytics say for this team?
So yeah, it's got Jack Powers winning it again with a pretty stout showing, a little over 9 wins, and then second, which Brad did pick out, was Vertonine 19.
Yeah, that's
pretty solid team. So
yeah, I think that is good. It's a team for me and Justin to kind of compete in. I don't know that we have the teams this year yet to go get it, but we'll have a matchup coming up, I'm sure, in a couple of weeks, and so we'll at least be able to have some banter that week that we play each other. So look forward to that. And it was fun previewing this team. Thanks, Brad, for that, and thank you for hopefully you didn't miss any good picks in your home league that you're drafting, and you got some good wide receiver value in round 15 and 16. That's about the right time for wide receivers, probably, to pick. Maybe Romeo Dobbs. Maybe you can get somebody like him in a home league. I don't know about that. Or Gabe Davis in his newly named captain, Gabe Davis. He was named captain today, so for the Bills. So I digress, and thank you guys for watching. Hit that like button, hit the bell to subscribe to the channel, and leave any comments you have. And for now, so long. We'll see you next week.